I am pleased to announce that on today's podcast, we're joined by MMA fighter Aaron Aby. Aaron, can you just give a small introduction to yourself, please?
Name's Aaron Aby, professional mixed martial artist, fight out the MMA Academy in Liverpool, coach of IPC Wrexham, and also the Welsh North Wales squad, born with cystic fibrosis as well.
Yeah, we're going to get into all of that. We've got quite a lot to cover. In my research notes, there's literally pages upon pages. So yeah, we've got a lot to cover. The best place to start is the start. If you could just talk about your early life. I know that although you're a great MMA fighter, you were actually a good footballer as well, if I'm believed to be true.
Yeah.
So if we could just start from the start, mate, and we'll go from there.
Yes, so I was born with cystic fibrosis, which is a genetic inherited disease that gives you like a faulty gene, and the faulty gene affects your mucus and digestive system, and because you can't process the mucus properly, just makes it hard to breathe. Affects like your lung function and your ability to fight colds and infections and everything, and also affects your digestive system and the way that you can digest food. So I was born with cystic fibrosis. I was diagnosed when I was 2 weeks old because I had a bowel blockage. So I was rushed to Alder Hey and obviously treated there when I was young. And at the time of being born, basically the feedback and the research was to not let me go outside much because my immune system would be weak, not let me train and because my lungs weren't very good, and just to protect me really. But my mum and dad took a different approach to that because they wanted me to live a normal life, so they chucked me in the deep end and let me go out with my mates and play every sport under the sun as long as I could get exercise. Because my dad's philosophy was, if our son is born with weak lungs, we'll train them lungs to make them better, because he was a professional rugby player at the time and had a background in sports science. So he wanted me every day to take me out on the field running, or I'd play football, rugby, hockey, athletics, cross country as a kid just to get healthy. And I found that benefited me a lot as a kid. And now a lot of the new research into cystic fibrosis is aimed at promoting exercise. So if you have a hospital stay where you have to get treatment while you're in, you have full-time physios there working with you, getting you in the gym, because they found how beneficial exercising is to the lungs and people with cystic fibrosis. So I always had a head start on that from a young age. That's why I become so involved in sports, health and fitness, nutrition. And obviously, like you said earlier, I was a keen footballer. I was playing at a professional club up until I was the age of 16. I represented my country as well, playing for Wales. Played with Aaron Ramsey, Joe Allen, Neil Taylor, who all played in the Premiership. They were in my team. Rhys Taylor as well. So I was a keen footballer growing up, which then transferred into mixed martial arts.
Wow. So it seems to be everyone's dream to become a footballer. So how come you decided, I don't want to be a footballer anymore. I fancy getting punched in the face.
It was my dream, obviously, growing up. So what actually happened with me is I a little bit got forced into mixed martial arts rather than football at the high level. I was at a professional club and I was playing. I was captain of the team. I was top goal scorer. I was playing for my country at the time as well, which only two of us in the side were. And this was at under 16 level, and it come to giving out YTSs, so youth team contracts at under 18 level. And the team I was playing for, when you got a YTS, you had to go and live in the premises in the college. So you would live there away from home and study there and play football in the morning, go to college, football in the afternoon, and then repeat. And basically, when it comes to giving out contracts, they said they weren't willing to take a risk on my condition because I had cystic fibrosis. They didn't want it, like they said, like, if anything went wrong with my health while I was there, how would they look after me? Which was a real kick in the teeth and obviously heartbreaking at the time. And one of the first like major setbacks I had as a kid, because obviously I was doing so well at the time, and I like everyone would like thought I was guaranteed to get a YTS and go to play, because I played for that club for like 6 years and was always one of the better players there. And when it comes to that obviously made me heartbroken. And it was the fact that they left it so late as well. So they didn't, because me having cystic fibrosis was never going to change.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like it just come on when they went to give the contract. So I had a couple of offers at the time, like one from my local club, Wrexham, to like go and join them like early in the season. But I stayed loyal to the club I played for as a youth or my childhood, really. I could have gone for another couple of Premiership clubs for trials. Like Crystal Palace even sent me a letter to go to London and film trial with them, but I stayed loyal to them. And then when it comes to giving out the contracts, that's the decision they come to. So a bit of a sour pill to swallow at the time. And then I ended up, after that, going to play for Wrexham, my local club, but they'd already give out their YTS contracts.
All right.
So I had to go on a part-time one.
Yeah.
So I was only in there 3 days a week, and the other days I was going to college to do sports science. So, like, while that was going on, my uncle, Julian, who trained under Eric Poulsen at the time, CSW coach, he was an affiliated coach under Eric Poulsen. So he started taking a class for cystic fibrosis, which obviously I suffer with, just once a week. So all the proceeds from the class would go to cystic fibrosis. And my dad, at the time, he would finish rugby, but he used to run the local doors in Wrexham. So he was like the manager of the doors in Wrexham. He would take all his staff there so they could like learn to defend themselves. So I was living with my dad at the time. So I started going with him one night a week to train mixed martial arts. And then I started like one night, become 2 nights, and then I'd be saying to my uncle, "Oh, can we go down again?" And then it become 3 nights, and then it become like every day of the week I'd be training with him. Just fell in love with it that way, really.
So, has your affiliation with football completely stopped then?
It stopped, which we'll probably get onto. I'm sure you'll get onto. It stopped up until this year, where I started just playing for a local team after like all my cancer treatment and the chemotherapy and everything, just as a way to get back fit. We have a local club who are in like the 2nd league in Wales come and train at the gym, and we train their strength and conditioning, and a few of my friends from school play for them. So I just like started playing at the start of the season this year, but then as soon as I got back fighting, I stopped playing, because after Wrexham, I went and played in the Welsh Premier League, and I was playing like at a high level there, like semi-pro, getting paid not much, but still getting paid as a 17, 16-year-old kid. But it comes to the point where it was, if I played football and I got injured, I would miss my MMA training, and at the time that was becoming more enjoyable to me.
Okay, who was it that you played for in the Welsh Prem then?
Kevin Jewett.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So I played for Kevin Druids in the Welsh Prem. Just had one full season there while I was like training and starting to compete as an amateur in mixed martial arts.
Yeah,
And it got to a point where I had to pick one. I still played for a bit longer, but it was just like after the Welsh Prem, I went and played in the Cymru Alliance, which is the one below.
yeah.
Just mixed martial arts, they started taking over. Like when I was in the Cymru Alliance, I wouldn't miss my MMA training to go football training.
No.
And stuff like that. And like if I was a coach, like I wouldn't want, like they were still picking me to play, but I knew that was wrong. Because if I was a football coach, I want my players to be training and playing. So I ended up just going into mixed martial arts full time, and that's when I started training at the MMA Academy in Liverpool and making the hour journey every day to train there in the day and then training back local at night.
Wow. And are there any regrets there, or are you really happy with the path you've chosen?
No, I'm really happy with the path I chose, and I think, like, don't get me wrong, I still love football. I watch football, but I think if I would have stayed professional, maybe something with Wrexham would have come on, then I might have gone down a different route. But I think the thing with me, mixed martial arts, it suits who I am more, my personality. Of obviously, like playing football, I have to rely on everyone else. I have to rely on someone to pick me. I have to rely on the other 10 players who are playing with me and the squad. And sometimes I would play football and like footballers are a bit pansy. And some of them would be saying, "Come on, then after the game, me and you," and stuff like that. And I know they wouldn't have a chance. And just the more I played it, the more annoying it became in a way. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it, and I made some of my closest mates from football who I still speak to this day and still have contact with them. And a lot of the people I played with have gone on to coach now. One of my best mates, Simon, he runs the TNS Academy and coach at Liverpool as well. So I still have them contacts, but I don't have no regrets. I do think mixed martial arts is more suited to who I am.
Yeah, I think it's clear to say that bad at it. Can you hear me, mate?
Yeah, can I hear you? Say again.
Yeah, I said it's safe to say you're not too bad at it.
Yeah, thanks.
I've got to ask, who do you support in terms of Premier League football then?
Liverpool.
Oh, good lad.
Always been Liverpool, and I think it was because I spent a lot of time in Liverpool as a kid, up and down to Alderhay, with the hospital, and my dad just said, I come home one day from school when I was 5 and was like, I want to support Liverpool, can I have a Liverpool top? And he didn't support anyone. He was more of a rugby man. He just liked watching football, didn't really have one team, and he was like, yeah, if you want to support Liverpool. And yeah.
Yeah, no, my dad supports Liverpool, so it's kind of forced upon me kind of thing. But I love it. I do love it. What are your thoughts about the league?
About the league this year?
Yeah.
It would have to be our year that this would happen.
Yeah.
Which is madness. I hope they give it us, but whether they will, and it will always be tainted now. It's one of them. Hopefully we get to finish the season off is what I think.
Yeah, hopefully we win it this year and then win it again next year.
Yeah, so then wipes all that doubt away.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. We'll talk a bit about cystic fibrosis. You did give a bit of an introduction and a brief breakdown of it there. But what I want to know is, how did that affect you, your fights at the start?
in my fights, like with training, I have to be smart. Like if I'm getting ill, I'll have to like maybe take a rest day and just be careful. But like I've always been known as a pressure fighter. Like if I'm fighting someone, and I very rarely take a backward step in my fights. And I've always been a fit lad. Like growing up, like I said, I did cross country football, and I was like North Wales champion in the cross country, and I had the 1500 meter record in school. So, like at the moment, I wouldn't say it really like has affected me much. The biggest hit I took was with the chemotherapy and the cancer treatment. That really had a big toll on my lungs. I think my lungs went to like 30% working. I had like a collapsed lung. I had pneumonia 2-3 times. But I've competed twice since then, and I haven't really felt the difference in my lungs. I haven't like been more tired than normal. The only way it's really affected me is maybe the weight, but that was not really a case of the cystic fibrosis. That was mainly a case of the cancer. I went down to like 49 kilograms. So obviously when I'm fighting as a flyweight at 56 kilograms, like when I accepted my first fight back, I was like 53 kilograms. So I was like light. So I was like putting on weight to have a fight when everyone else is losing weight. So the only way it really has affected me is like people feel heavy, but I've never really been one for cutting much weight anyway because of the cystic fibrosis and the negatives of cutting weight. But I've never really been this light before in my life. So obviously I've had 2 fights back now, so that's the only way I felt a difference.
Yeah, because I was in preparation and research for this podcast. I watched a few of your fights, and it seems to me like your style is to like break down the opponent and take him down to the ground and try and potentially get a submission maybe. And like you said, you come back down, back off. It seems to be you that's always going forward. And that shocked me for because obviously I'd only read about yourself, not seen your fight. That shocked me because I thought that maybe you'd have to be a bit like more technical in your like endurance, but it seems like you've got hell of good stamina.
Yeah, like maybe as I get older, I'll have to adapt my fight style as well. But like I've put in the work since a kid, you know, like spent hours and hours running and grafting, and like obviously my dad had me in the gym from when I was 12, 13, and be like waking me up early in the morning before school to take me run up hills and stuff. Like my lung function's obviously declined over time, as everyone's does with cystic fibrosis, but I still feel like for my style, like it's in my mentality to push forward. Like if I'm standing in front of someone and nothing's happening, I've got to push forward. That like whenever I get a setback, I've got to push forward. It's for me just who I am. So when I fight, at the moment I've got to be that pressure fighter. I love to push the pace, and like obviously being lighter, like I like to break opponents and just work them down, and like just make them work harder than me as well. So even though I'm working hard, I'm making them work harder than me because I'm trying to put them in bad positions, trying to like lean my weight on them, trying to use technique with pressure, with a good pace to break them down, and then hopefully eventually win the fight.
Yeah, from the fights I've watched, you definitely do that. Talking more about cystic fibrosis, we mentioned that it has an effect on the digestive system.
Yeah.
So I want to speak to you about your diet. Are you like a carnivore diet, ketogenic, or?
I'm mainly a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
So like growing up, like because with cystic fibrosis, you don't have enzymes in your body, and you find it hard to digest food, so you don't absorb a lot of nutrients from the food. So growing up, it was like a high calorie, high fat diet, like recommended by the cystic fibrosis team. So like literally I'd get home and like sometimes as a kid, my mum would like made me like milkshakes with just ice cream and chocolate bars to try and help me put on weight. But as I got older, like obviously my dad had like a more sports specific background. He would start like weaning me off and making me eat healthier food, still high in calories, but I'd have like a lot more protein and veg and good carbohydrates. And then he started me on like protein shakes from when I was like 12 and meal replacements to help me like gain weight. So I was mainly like, I've tried all diets really, but then I would be on like a bodybuilder diet, like throughout my like late teens and when I was 21, I got a bowel blockage.
Okay.
In my stomach, which just came overnight and required an emergency operation. When I was 21, I was literally finished training one night, went to work because I was working for my dad, just like on the doors, and I had this horrendous pain in my stomach, and like I tried to like push through and like survive it, and I got to like 3 a.m. and I like went in, got home from work, and I just went in to my stepdad and I said, I think you need to take me to the hospital. And I didn't think it would be as bad as it was, but one foot of my colon had died in my stomach. So I had an emergency op, and during the op, again, I had a lung collapse. I had a lung collapse. I was in hospital. They didn't know whether I was going to make it through the operation. After the operation, and then after they didn't know what caused it, so they thought it could be the mucus from obviously the cystic fibrosis, which had got blocked in my stomach. Maybe I'd swallowed a lot of mucus over my years, or just weren't digesting it properly. So I did a lot of research into food and like how long it takes meat to get digested through the colon when you eat it. Like a piece of red meat can take 2-3 weeks to pass through your system.
Yeah.
So when I like looked into that, I started more of a plant-based diet, which was like 8 years ago now. I reduced my meat intake and stuff, and then like a lot of the studies and the research started coming out about how good a plant-based diet is for athletic performance. And I hadn't connected the dots, but at the time, my lung function, since I cut out the meat, had improved.
Wow.
So, like when I looked into some of the research about like how it helps with oxygen getting transported around the body and stuff, I linked them together, and then I mainly went into a plant-based diet. Like I don't say I'm vegan. I'm not one of the persons to say I'm vegan, or because like I have honey. Sometimes like I'll go out and have a pizza, but 85-90% of my diet comes from plants and whole natural foods. Like I don't believe there's any one way, like a keto diet, a carnivore diet, or anything that suits me. But if you were to ask me what type of diet I'm on, I would say plant-based.
Because from far as I'm aware, the like plant-based diets are digested in the small intestine, while meat and stuff like that is digested in the large. So I'm guessing that's what helps you out.
So yeah. So like I always research diets, like one because of cystic fibrosis, and also coming up with like a dad who was heavily involved in sport, and my degree was in sport. I went to college for sport, and just over time, like it just found to be the best one for me.
Yeah, sounds it. You seem to speak a lot about your dad and your uncle, your stepdad. Is family a major thing for you? Is that been like a major push in your career?
Yeah, I think. Can you hear me?
Just about, mate.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I think like the way I was brought up, like I owe a lot to that to my family, because obviously when you're a kid, the environment that you're brought up in, like, sets like how almost you're going to live the rest of your life in normal cases, unless you're strong enough when you grow up to change those habits you've been brought up in. But for example, when I was growing up as a kid, like, if my mum and dad would have, like, kept me inside and listened to the advice they were given from the doctors at the time, I wouldn't be the person I am. And that wasn't because I had that choice. It was just they made it that way. They could have wrapped me up in cotton wool, but they chose not to. Like, when I was born, I was offered to have a permanent tube in my chest for IVs. So rather than, like, if I needed treatment, go and have a tube put in, a permanent one. So obviously, if I had the permanent tube in my chest, I wouldn't be competing and playing football. But, like, they were like the ones, no, let's see how we get on. We don't, and, like, I owe a lot to them because of the way they brought me up at an early stage. I think that played a massive part in who I am today. And as a lot of people, I've been fortunate to have a lot of good role models growing up. And but, like, obviously, my parents played a big part in that.
Brilliant. And obviously, it was your uncle and your dad that got you into MMA as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, they were the reason. Like, my uncle started the class for charity. My dad took me, and then like, my uncle was in my corner for the first few fights, as was my dad. And, like, when I coach now at IPC, I'm the head coach. My uncle's my assistant coach, and my dad runs the strength and conditioning for the team. So sometimes there's three of us in the corner. It's a full AV corner when some of our fighters compete, which is awesome.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. To have a nice, strong family bond. Who is generally in your corner at the fights then?
So when I compete, I have Jason Tan, who is the head coach at the MMA Academy. I have Steve Nightingale, who is my main training partner, and since he's stopped fighting, become one of my coaches. And then I also have Lawrence Fitzpatrick, who I'm sure you've heard of, who's a talented fighter now, and he's my main striking coach. But then I've also been fortunate to have people in my corner like Mike Wooten, Carl Prince, who's just opened a gym in Manchester top team. He's been in my corner as well. So, like, since I've moved to Liverpool, I've had them guys in my corner, and Peter Davis as well. But generally, like, they're the main three since I started back, and I've always got talented guys I can rely on.
Yeah, definitely. You sound like you've got a good team behind you.
Yeah, I've got a great team. Like, I do most of my training at the MMA Academy, and I also travel up to Wrexham MMA, where Steve Nightingale's gym is. I go there 2-3 times a week because they've got some really good light guys for me. Because there's not many light guys now at the MMA Academy. But the young generation are coming through, and I still get quality training in, and then I go and do most of my sparring and work with the light guys at Reps MMA, and also have my jiu-jitsu coach Jay Owen as well at the MMA Academy. So I'm fortunate I got, like, good knowledge.
Yeah, brilliant. You mentioned there, was it Jason Tan?
Yes.
Is he former UFC?
He is former UFC. Yeah, I think he had 2 fights in the UFC, and then after that, that's when he opened his gym in Liverpool and started the MMA Academy.
Brilliant. And as far as I'm aware, he is obviously one of your trainers as well, or was.
Yeah, Jason Tan is my head coach.
Yeah.
So he owns the MMA Academy where I fight out of.
Awesome. So we'll actually get into the MMA now. I want to start off by talking about your style. As far as I'm aware, you're Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Could you talk me through your style? How you go into fights? Maybe do you analyze the fighters? Just give me a brief rundown of how you prepare for fights and how you aim to set up in the cage?
I don't really look too much into my opponents.
Okay.
I have a quick look and I'll work out some patterns that they do well, some things they do bad. Also, like the level I'm fighting at now, like I know most of the guys in the division anyway before I watch them. I'll just break it down a little bit and drill some things in the weeks up to it. But like it's always based around me.
Yeah.
And what I do best and how I can work my style into them fights. And then I'll try and like do the slight changes I'm making or the things I think are going to work in the fight, in the build up to it, in sparring. I'll drill them in, whether they're striking complexities I'm going to lose wrestling on the ground. I'll drill them up to it and then I'll try and put them in sparring and then take them into the fight. So like I'll look into it and then I'll adapt my style a little bit and work some little specific stuff around that.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few fighters, and that's how they seem to go into the fight. When you look at like the likes of football, they spend so much time analysing rather than actually focusing on themselves. So maybe that's a good tactic to focus more on yourself rather than focus on what your opposition is going to do.
Yeah, I think like a lot of times in football though, like I think like the top teams will be focusing on themselves and like the lower teams might be focusing on how to stop the top teams. But I always think like you should be aware of what other fighters do well, because they'll always do that. But if you can exploit what they do well, you can use that to your advantage. You're in for a winning game, because if you know someone is, say for example, breaking it down simply, has a really good jab, you know they're going to jab you. So if you can work counters off that jab, because you know they're going to do it, you can take away that tool and use it to your advantage. And then also, if you know they have a couple of bad habits, you can work them. But for example, you get 6 to 8 weeks preparing for a mixed martial arts fight, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Like the last one I took, I had like a week's notice, so it's not like I could really study the opponent and go in with a game plan based around him. It's got to be based around yourself and how you can work that.
Yeah. Talk about your style. I'd say that you're a brilliant technician. You work a lot on takedowns.
Yeah.
But up on your feet, you're still a good fighter. You're good at your kicks and you're throwing fists. Seems like wrestling has had quite an influence on yourself.
Yeah, like wrestling's like, again, it suits my mentality because it's a grind. Yeah. And it's probably the hardest discipline. And like when I started off as an amateur, at the time it was early, like the amateur rules have changed now. There's no head strikes.
Yeah.
So you could only strike to the body. So obviously there was no point in striking. So when I started off, like a lot of my training would be around getting the takedown, being on top, and getting the finish. And I think that's like transitioned throughout into my pro career.
Yeah.
And obviously, technique, I hate doing stuff wrong. I always have to do it right. And obviously, being a coach, I have to like make sure I'm teaching the techniques right. So that's why I like try to pride myself on good technique as well. But like obviously, I love the wrestling grind. But like, there's nothing better for me than turning up and doing some hard wrestling rounds, whether that in the open or against a wall or against a cage. Because again, it suits my style and my personality of being able to break someone down. Because I've always been like told growing up, you can't do this, you're not going to be able to do this, like by people outside of my family, like, no, you haven't got a chance, how can he do this? So like when I compete and I feel other people break and I'm still going hard, that like inspires me as well. And like I had one fight and like 2 minutes into the fight, the guy was calling me a girl and saying I feel like a girl, and then in the third round I was asking him who feels like a girl now. So, you know, I think that wrestling always like plays a part in who I am as well, because it suits my mentality.
Yeah, definitely. I tell you one thing, from watching a lot of your fights, yeah, you can take a punch.
Yeah, everyone says that. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I've took many strikes, but yeah, like people always say how tough I am and hard to finish, and I think that's because what I've been through in life, you know, like a fight to me is nothing compared to the battles I've had outside the cage. And like I said once, like I was getting elbowed repeatedly, and they were like, "Why weren't you doing anything?" And I was like, "Because to me, that I like it when someone's giving me all they can, and they still can't finish me."
Jesus.
But it's a good thing to have as well. But obviously, I don't want to always have to show my toughness. If I'm going to be smart in fights, I want to win fights without taking damage. But I know it's there if I need to use it. Where some fighters I watch, I know they're gonna. I can see they've got a breaking point. I see when it gets tough, they look for a way out, and I'll never look for a way out. Which is a good thing, but obviously not something you want to have to show all the time if you want a long career and a healthy brain.
Yeah, I think two of the memorable hits that you took that I was like, Jesus, that's got to be the end of the fight, and it was nowhere near the end of the fight. Was the spinning? I think it was a spinning punch.
Back fist, yeah.
Yeah, and I just thought that's the fight done. And although it was quite fortunate, it was near the end of the round. But
Can you hear me? Sorry,
yeah.
watching again. Yeah. The spinning back fist. I was just connecting to the Bluetooth. Yeah, the spinning back fist, and what was the other one?
And you're on the ground, and the fighter catches you flush with an elbow, and it splits you right open.
Oh, okay, yeah.
None of them seem to phase you.
No, like I said, like I have got that. Like I grew up watching Rocky, so sometimes, like it's like I said, that I've experienced that much through my life that like a fight's really nothing, and I pride myself on like almost like motivating people through tough times. So like I'll always, like I said, I'll never quit, I'll never break up, and I'll never give up or anything like
that. Yeah, like I said to you when I first dropped you a message to ask if you do this podcast, I said to you, you are a true warrior.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think that's just the best way to sum you up, to be honest with you. So we'll go into your amateur fights. 16 wins, 0 losses.
Yeah.
Can you just talk me through that? What was the first fight like? Nerves or?
So like the first time I competed, like I said, the rules were different. It was no headshots, and it was in the Abbey Vale in Wales, and it was like you turn up, you didn't know who you're fighting, and you had 2 fights in one day. So you had shin guards on. You still had the little 4-ounce gloves on, which are changed now in the amateur rules. So like I wasn't really that nervous, to be honest, because it was a daytime event. It was in a sports hall. There was like about 100 people there. And I think because obviously I played football in front of like 2,000-3,000 people growing up, like when I played for Wales and stuff, that to me didn't really, like I was more excited rather than like nervous. And I really enjoyed it. And I think my uncle said after me, I said to him, I want to do that for the rest of my life. When's my next one? So yeah, that's how it started. Obviously then amateur scene and the MMA scene grew, and it became like in nightclubs, night events with a few more people there. But like I prefer more people there. I'm one of them that thrives off the atmosphere and the crowd. I like being in those big fights. So yeah,
You
Yeah, I've
mentioned
always
there
enjoyed it.
about the crowd. You seem to have a really good following at your fights.
Yeah, I
How,
have a great following, to be fair.
how does that influence you in a fight then, knowing that you've got so many people behind your back?
It motivates me. I feel like they're part of my journey, and I do it for them as well because I feel like they attribute to my success. They've been with me. Like a lot of the people who come to watch me have been my friends in school, my family members, played in football teams with me, or training partners, and like I feel like I represent them when I go out there, and they have a lot of contribution to who I am and where I am today. So when I see them there, and like I'll look and I'll see my family in the crowd and that, and I know I'm doing it for them, and like it's gonna have to be really something special to like break me, or you know, like it motivates me having them there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, fair play. You. I think if you're maybe losing on points and you're hearing them chanting, it gives you maybe like a second lease of life, doesn't it?
Yeah, like, and I like I'm pretty good at filtering out voices, so I can
Okay.
always hear, no matter how many people there, I'll always hear my dad, whatever he's saying. Like even when he's in the crowd, and like it's in Sheffield Arena or the MEM in Manchester, and he's 100 yards away, I'll always hear his voice, and those voices I'm used to and have heard all my life. They'll always filter through. My mum will always filter through. I'm pretty good at that, and obviously, yes, it can spur you on when you hear one of them shouting.
Yeah. Your amateur unbeaten streak. When you're getting to like 10 fights unbeaten, are you thinking how far can I take this, or are you even more nervous, like knowing that
Uh,
you're unbeaten? Because people like other fighters are gonna think I'm gonna take that to a one, that 0 to a one.
a little bit, yeah. Like for me, like at the start, it was like after I'd lost my first fight, it almost took a little bit of pressure off me, rather than everyone like coming up to me, you're undefeated, you're undefeated, you're undefeated, and like that would like add up a little bit, and like, but like as an amateur, I wish I would have lost the amateur. Like a lot of my, like I've only lost 3 times now, but like 2 of them were very early in my pro career,
Yeah.
and I think that was because like I wish they were amateur and I would have learned those lessons at amateur, but it got to the point in my amateur career, obviously being at a lighter weight as well, where it was recycling opponents I'd already fought, or I took one fight at 66 kilogram when I was weighing 61,
Wow.
just because it was someone different to fight. But now the amateur scene, like the amateurs are full-time athletes. Some of these guys coming through the amateur ranks now go into the pro ranks and make a name for themselves already, which is great for the sport. Like I'm glad to be eventually coaching in that, and I wish I would have had the amateur game that they're having now with like the IMAFs and everything.
Yeah. Brilliant. So what would you say is the like the biggest changes for the step up, like from amateur to pro?
See, there's not that big now. Elbows, that's it. Whereas back in the day, when I turned pro, a step up from amateur to pro was training time as well. So, for
Okay.
example, amateurs, when I was training, some amateurs would train 3-4 times a week, but now some of the amateurs like are training twice a day, 2-3 times a day.
Wow.
So the step up isn't that different now. The good amateurs, the ones who are making a name for themselves in the sport, are already putting in the work and doing those 2-3 sessions a day, training with pros, training full time. The sport's growing, and it's a good time to be around it. And the professionalism and the quality of the sport is growing as well.
Yeah.
And that's like because there's more gyms coming about, there's more money in the sport, so people can afford to train full time. Like to show I'm a part of UKFC. I matchmake for some of the amateurs are getting paid now, purses. Just out of respect from the owner of the show, Steve Nightingale. He knows how hard some of the amateurs are working this day. He's willing them to pay them a wage when they fight. So the step up from amateur to pro isn't as big as it used to be.
Well, your step up seems to have gone quite well. 11 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw.
Yeah.
Your first pro fight, when you're standing on the opposite end of the cage, you're making your debut, and you're looking across to your opponent, and in his mind, he's just thinking about beating you up. What are the thoughts and emotions that are going through your head?
The same as every fight, really. I'm just focused on me and what I'm going to do. Like, when I'm looking across at my opponent, I'm more just focusing on what I'm going to do. And, like, I'm just excited and ready to go. And, like, for me, the most nervous part of a fight is walking out, because you're not used to that. But as soon as we start, I'm like, I'm doing this every day. Like, I just, like, boom, in the zone. Let's go. And I feel comfortable.
Yeah. You said that about your walkout. I'm sure one of your walkout music was Thunder, if I'm right. Is that consistently your walkout music?
It was, until after the cancer I changed to All Fired Up by Pat Benatar, because that was a song that I found motivated me through the cancer. A lot of the words meant a lot, and like when I walked out after the cancer journey to that song, like it filled me up with emotion. I could have like cried before the fight, and I was like trying to hold the tears back, but I envisioned myself walking out to that song for 18 months, and every time I would hear it before I was, and like people were telling me I wouldn't fight again, like, you know, I was getting told I wasn't gonna make it through it, and like I always had that vision and of me walking out to that song, and that song out motivated me. So the last 2 fights I've walked out to that.
And it's done you well, because obviously you've got a win and a draw since your return.
Yeah, I think the draw now, if I was to go back and have that fight, it would be a different story. Hopefully I will get to rewrite that again. But like I said, when I took that fight, like it was 9 months after my big major operation. I was 4 kg underweight, and my opponent missed weight. So that didn't help. But for me to get back in there, I could say I rushed it a little bit, because for me I had to get back in there to end my cancer journey, and it was something I had set a goal on and planned, and like hopefully I'll get that fight down the line, and I definitely don't think it'll be a draw.
No, I believe every word you're saying, to be honest with you. So if you don't mind going into it,
yeah,
with the cancer, how did it all come about? Like what happened? If the build up to that, then.
So I was fighting ACB like against Danny Missing, and I was getting like pains in my back and my testicle, and at the time I didn't know what it was. So I was struggling with the pain, so I went to the doctors, and they just thought it was an infection.
Yeah.
So they give me some tablets for an infection. I didn't end up taking the tablets because I don't really try not to take antibiotics willy-nilly. And then I kept training for the fight, and then the week before the fight, the pain was getting worse. So I thought maybe it was nerves for the fight, because it was a big rematch. It was on a big show. It was on a fight against someone I'd lost to before, and there was a lot of like talk in the build-up to the fight. So I thought maybe it was that, and then obviously I had the fight, I won. Went and got checked out again because it wasn't going, it was getting worse, and then that's when they told me it was cancer.
Jesus. And where's your head at when you're told something like that?
Obviously, it's something that you don't want to believe at the time, and like I was like trying to like question it and going through my own tests, and like no, surely not, and like one of the worst things you can probably get told. And but for me, I always had that thing that I was going to get through it, come out the other side. But there's a lot of emotions going through for your family, for everyone. At the time, my nana was having cancer, so my mum was going through that with her. So, yeah, it's obviously a challenging time, but like I treated it like a fight. I would put in place what I was going to do. I was going to overcome it and go from there. Really.
Wow. So, from what I've read, you didn't really want to go through with any kind of surgery.
More chemotherapy.
Okay.
I wanted surgery. I didn't want chemotherapy.
Okay. And what were the reasons behind that, if you don't mind me asking?
Just because I'd read like a lot of research into like when my nana was ill about like the negative effects of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And like the negative, like how it affects your body and what it does to your body. And because I'd like spent all my life trying to like build my body up to be healthy, I knew it wouldn't be good for me. So I was like doing everything I can to avoid it. And basically that really.
So, what actually led to you saying, okay, it's gonna have to happen?
Basically, the pain kept getting worse. I'd had two weeks without like any sleep because of the pain.
Wow.
And then my cystic fibrosis nurse Jam, come to see me, and she'd been in touch with my cancer doctor, and basically my cancer doctor told her I might have 6 months left to live with no treatment. And she basically said to me, Aaron, I'll support whatever option you take, whether you have chemotherapy or you don't. I'll support you. If it's end of life treatment, we'll support you and, support you through with trying to like make the pain as less as possible. Or if you choose to have chemo, it's going to be bad for you. It's going to be rough ride, but we'll support you. So she like give me a bit of like support in that way, and then like my mum and my partner come home and they're like upset and like they were like, please do it, please. So I just committed to it, and it's like I'll give it a go, and I'm just gonna like fight it as hard as possible, really.
Jesus. Wow. And obviously you speak about how any fight doesn't compare to the fight you've gone through with that. I'm guessing that was a extreme low of your life.
Yeah, that was the most challenging part of my life by far. By far, no matter everything I've gone through with cystic fibrosis, the cancer journey was the hardest journey of my life. Like the cancer going, the cancer coming back, the treatment working, the treatment not working, all the things I went through, no sleep. Obviously, I can't be a dad now. All the things I went through was the hardest part of my life.
Jesus. Fair play to you, mate, honestly. And obviously, with you already having cystic fibrosis,
yeah,
were there like further worries with that there as well, or?
Yeah, that was like one of the things with chemotherapy, because obviously it affected my lungs, my immune system. I ended up getting pneumonia twice. My lung function declined to like 40%, and I'd gone from like being a fit and healthy guy, trying to like put no poison in my body all my life to poisoning my whole body with chemotherapy. And a lot of it was because of the complications of the chemo, that I had a lot of like negative effects from it.
Wow. So along with the chemo, you also had to undergo a surgery, didn't you?
Yeah.
And obviously, because of your cystic fibrosis, you had to undergo that in a different manner to what most would usually have. If you could talk a little bit about that.
So because I was having 2 operations so close together, they couldn't give me anesthetic twice because of the effects on the lungs too soon. And because they couldn't do both operations in one go, I had to have the testicle that had cancer in removed with just local anesthetic. So I was awake through the whole operation while they removed my testicle.
Jesus, wow. And through that, do you feel like what, like
you can like, if I move my arms or my feet, I can feel it. I was just like numb around my lower back and my waist. So like I was awake talking to him through it all. They even asked if we could take a selfie, but they weren't up for it. But yeah, yeah, I was awake through it all. It was like quite a surreal experience, and like one that not many people will ever experience. And like after it was just madness, like being awake for it and going back and thinking about it.
So, see, I'm thinking like even when you like accidentally cop like a flick or like a slight nudge down in that direction, it hurt like a.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like obviously, I had local anaesthetic, so I was numb around my waist. So like it was just like I was awake and I could feel the rest of my body other than that area.
Even when that wears off.
Yeah, oh, it's sore, you know, sore just like getting cut open anywhere would be.
Wow. So you getting, because it spread to your stomach.
Yeah.
And you also had to be operated on your stomach as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was that like simultaneously or?
No, that was like a couple of months later.
Wow.
That was a dangerous operation because where the lymph mass was in the stomach was where the blood goes to and from the heart. So only one surgeon would do it in the UK. So I had to wait for him to do it because nobody else would take the risk because they said it was a too dangerous operation. So I had to wait for him to do it because he obviously did it successfully, and that's why I'm here today.
Wow. What are your thoughts going into an operation like that when everything says don't do it, basically, or like the risks of doing it are quite high?
Like again, I prepared for it like a fight, so I trained up for it. I got my lungs function up. I like made sure I was eating well going into it, as healthy as possible. So all I knew is that I'd done my job, and then I knew it was up to the surgeon, Mr. Patel, to do his job. And he said to me that he was the best surgeon around and filled me with confidence. So I just went in there knowing I'd done everything, and like it's one of them. I wasn't in control of anything else other than what I'd done, and it was up to him. So it's again a mad experience, but one I've come out the other end on.
That is bonkers. So after that operation, then did that cure everything?
Yeah, that removed all the cancer. Yeah.
Wow. So waking up from that, not knowing whether, like, to be serious, not knowing whether or not you would wake up,
Yeah.
and to be told that it was a success, like, that must be the best feeling ever. Or
Yeah, it was hard to like be happy because of the pain I was in, because I had my stomach cut open from just below my chest all the way down my stomach to just above my pubic bone. And also I had like a few complications with my lungs after it, so it was still a long battle after the operation. Even though I knew I was cancer free, I ended up getting pneumonia. So it was like still a fight after that, if you get me.
yeah. And you just take it as it comes, man.
I think you can't be negative in them situations. It's not going to get you anywhere. You got to try and stay positive and keep grinding it out, almost like biting down. My dad said it's time to bite down on your gum shield and push through, and that's what I would do.
Oh. You mentioned there keeping positive with the talks of young men's mental health and what you've gone through. How does somebody not fall into like the dark places when someone's been through so much?
I think a lot of people are struggling with mental health and that these days. I think like society's becoming softer. I think social media is not helping. I think times of like hardship and going through tough times are not the same as they used to be. But I think like anyone gets negative thoughts. I get negative thoughts, and it's okay to get negative thoughts because it's as long as you analyze them and address them and be able to like analyze them properly and overcome them, and then also like appreciate that if you go into that downward spiral, it's never going to help you. And I think like a lot of things on like TV and social media, they portray this perfect life, and it's like all these books are about being happy and the way to be happy and make money and all that crap. But I think like people have got to understand there's never that perfect moment, there's never that perfect life, and there's never that time you're always going to be completely happy. You could have all the money in the world, but you're down about what car to freaking buy. And I think as long as people know that you're never always meant to be happy and you're always meant to have these challenges, I think that can help them through. And then you just got to analyze stuff properly. And like, that's why when I went into that operation that they were saying with life and death, you know, like they told my parents to prepare my will and stuff, rather than just me sulk up into the build up to it. I was like, right, I'm going to get my lungs healthy. I'm going to train. I'm going to get myself in the fittest state possible, because I know that would give me the best chance of surviving.
Jesus, mate, I'm going to take this opportunity now to say that you're honestly like an inspiration.
Thank you.
And although I'm not finished with my questions yet,
No problem.
it's a pleasure being able to speak to you and get to know your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So this was 2017 when you're diagnosed, and whilst people are telling you to get a will sorted, going through multiple operations, chemotherapy, what on your mind? You're thinking, when can I get back in the cage?
Yeah, they're the things that like get me through having those goals after. And like I was told after the operation, which was March 2019, that I wouldn't be back training until February the following year, which is just the February gone, and I'd had 2 fights by February.
Jesus.
That's why maybe the first one was a bit too soon, but it was something I had to do for my mentality, and that's why I said if I had that fight again, it would be a different outcome. But I always have to like set goals, because people base their goals as well, and like especially hospitals on. And I always find they're safe, or you know, that they not they're not setting goals based on the individual, and like my goals are different to everyone else's. And even though they said 1 year, I knew it wouldn't be 1 year. My aim was to fight within 1 year, and I ended up achieving that.
I was watching the documentary that was made by I'm guessing a close friend of yours.
Yeah, I think that was Adams.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and you're speaking before the fight, and you're like, it's a victory. The fact that I'm going in, obviously you want the win, but it's a victory. The fact that you're going back into the cage.
Yeah.
That
was like, that's why I think like the most proudest moment of my career is that walk back into the cage after everything. Like any fight or any experience doesn't compare to just making that walk again when it might like people told me it would never happen again. And like I said before, even I got those negative thoughts that maybe I was done. That was the most proudest moment in my career. I was main event that night, so at the end of the night, it was mainly my fans there. And when I made that walk, I could look and see everyone who played a part in making that journey for me being back and competing, and like seeing everyone in the crowd, and that was like the most proudest moment of my career. Yeah.
Oh. And how do you keep the emotions grounded in a moment like that?
Well, like I said, when I spoke to you earlier, it was hard not to cry because I'd envisioned that moment, and it helped get me through it. And walking out to that song helped get me through all the treatment. And anytime I was feeling down, and I'd visualize that moment to pick me back up. So it's like you don't really keep the emotion in that moment.
No, something that really struck me, or like really played on my emotions, was the interview that you did after your fight, and I think that's how I got to know your story. And there's a part in it where you say, "My life's not meant to be perfect, but it's meant to give people hope."
Yeah,
and that really like choked me up after like reading about your story and stuff like
that.
Yeah. You're obviously very emotional while saying it after what you just achieved. Could you talk to me more about that interview and how like the emotions just took over after that?
Yeah, like a lot of people mentioned that interview to me, like after, like the guy who filmed it and stuff, and some of the people who were in the background. And to be honest, I couldn't even remember what I'd said. Mostly it was, like you said, it was just an emotional interview. It was almost like a counseling session in a way, where everything some of the thoughts I'd had in my head up until that moment just come out. And even like it made me feel better for saying it, but something that I didn't really know what I'd said before it.
Yeah, that's up there with like Rocky Balboa. The world's not about butterflies and rainbows. It's a tough place. It's up there. I could have that on a canvas on my living room wall. I'd be happy.
Yeah, I've got the Rocky one on a canvas in my bedroom that I look at.
Awesome. Do you find a lot of inspiration from the Rocky Balboa films?
Yeah, like I said, I grew up watching Rocky and Karate Kid and Mighty Ducks and Battle of the Underdog, because I was always the underdog.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, like when I said my life's not meant to be perfect, like everything, like with football even, I didn't get to become a footballer because I had cystic fibrosis. Like I make that journey back, and like one of my goals is like I spoke in an interview in like 2015, and they said, like, other than MMA, what is your main goal? And I said my main goal was to be a dad. And then 2 years later, I found out I can't be a dad because I've had cancer. And then I make this journey back from cancer and manage to fight again, and I end up coming away with a draw. Like, and that's what I said earlier to you before. Everyone expects this perfect life, and this perfect life gets thrown out to you on the TV, on social media, but it's not meant to be perfect, and my life's not meant to be perfect. But hopefully, like, people can take my life, and when they're in tough times, that can inspire them, and when they're having bad thoughts, they can know it's okay to have bad thoughts, as long as, like, you analyze them and you don't let them get on top of you, and you come out the other side.
Jeez, the fact that you've been through so much and you've got such a positive outlook is like truly like inspiring.
Thank you.
And it just goes back to one of the first things I said to you, which was you are a true warrior, yeah, and you really are, mate. You really are in terms of in the cage, in life, in your mindset. You're just a warrior, mate.
Thanks, Craig.
So you had a fight recently in Dubai.
Yeah.
Mohammed Yaman.
Yeah.
And you won by unanimous decision.
Yeah.
That takes you to a 5-match unbeaten win, unbeaten streak. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's 4 wins and a draw. What was it like to get the W again?
It was good. It was like a fight on like 10 days' notice, I think.
Wow.
And it was on my 30th birthday.
Wow.
So there was no better way really to spend my 30th than doing what I love and getting flown out to a foreign country and getting to compete. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Awesome. And how did the fight go? Like, was it like quite a technical bout, or
it was a technical bout. He was number one ranked in Egypt, 10-1 record.
Wow.
But I thought I managed to control the fight. Like, had the back, had the mount, controlled the wrestling. Just disappointed I didn't get a finish, really.
Yeah. Obviously the fight took place in Dubai. Where did some of like is fighting in foreign countries something that you've done frequently, or?
That was the first time.
Oh wow.
First time, yeah.
And how was the experience?
Great, really enjoyed it. Like, just like going away and just focusing on the fight for a week. Because when I'm at home, I'm normally like coaching and like going about my life as it normally is. So it was good to like go away, just focus on the fight and enjoyed the experience. Yeah, the only bad thing is that I still had a few people come and watch, but I didn't have like the usual people who were there, the amount, because obviously they can't fight at Dubai on 10 weeks' notice.
Yeah. So where's the biggest venues you fought in Britain then?
MEM, Sheffield Arena, the biggest venues, yeah.
Oh, you spoke about your return as being the best moment of your career.
Yeah.
What would you say is the best fight of your career?
Like, obviously, I enjoyed getting the rematch win over Danny Missing.
Yeah.
But like, I really enjoyed my fight with Andy Young, which was for the FCC title. that was a late notice fight as well, like 2 weeks. And Andy Young at the time was the BAMMA world champ. And we had a really good fight. So I enjoyed that, even though I lost. That was my last loss.
Yeah.
But I still think the best of me is yet to come.
Wow. That's a big statement.
So that's why I'm good at this virus is affecting my time.
Were you supposed to be fighting Jack Young?
I was meant to be fighting Jack Young, yeah. And then I was looking at another fight, which would have been this Saturday, which obviously is not going to materialise now. So I'm looking to go as soon as it's over and try and get 2-3 more in ASAP, really. But obviously we don't know how long this is going to go on, but I'm still training twice a day. I'm staying fit, staying healthy, and I'll be ready to go when all this blows over.
Awesome. So talking a little bit about the coronavirus, is with your cystic fibrosis, how like do you have to be like extra careful, like, or?
Yeah, I'm on the 12 weeks isolation list.
Wow.
So I've got to stay inside for 12 weeks, supposedly.
Wow, Jesus. So it's scary for people in general, but yeah.
I'm not scared by it, but
That surprised me, mate.
like I just hope the world becomes a better place at the end of it.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Just a couple more things before we wrap up. I think, is it true that you're MMA Cymru coach?
Yeah. So I run the North Wales side.
Okay, then. So do you know Danny Williams from Buckeley?
Yes.
We've interviewed him a couple of times. He's a great lad.
Yeah.
Are there any notable athletes or fighters that you pick out from that squad, that team?
They all are really, like, obviously to be representing Wales is a massive achievement. I've got 2 from my team, IPC Wrexham, this year, who are competing. Hayley Barraclough, who's the first ever girl to represent Wales. Mike Morris, who's had 10 amateur fights now. And then obviously there's the guys from down south who medalled last year, who are now going pro, like Scott Pedersen, Jack Tucker. They've got good fighters at Richard George Gym, Jack Shaw, and Chris Reese Academy, and obviously Wayne's the head coach. And what MMA in Wales is bright, and it's like it's got that competitive spirit, and like you only have to look at the rugby and how well the Welsh MMA fighters are doing, like Brett Johns, Jack Marshman and stuff. You'll be able to interview a few Welsh superstars in the future.
Wow, brilliant. And what's it like coaching rather than competing? Like, what's the major differences for you? Like,
none really. I enjoy it. Sometimes I just when I train with them, it's not about me. It's about helping them learn and develop. So I have to be like a little less selfish, which I don't mind, because I get a lot of enjoyment out of coaching. And obviously my degree's in sport coaching, and some of the guys and girls coming through are doing really well and committed. And like I said, hopefully, like, my aim is not only just to make them great competitors, but to make them great people and teach them that through sport as well.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. Definitely, I think you've got a lot to teach people that are looking to get into MMA. I think you're not going to find many more people that have got like the wisdom that you probably have.
Thank you.
Coming to the last section now, and have you ever seen the film Prayer Before Dawn?
No.
Okay, well, if you're into your fighting, which obviously you are,
Yeah.
get onto that Prayer Before Dawn.
Okay.
It's about a Scouse Muay Thai fighter
Yeah.
who he ends up locked up in Thailand. It's
Okay.
based on true story as well.
Yeah.
And he ends up on the Muay Thai team in the prison because there's obviously nothing else to do. It's really great story. I'd definitely advise you to go and watch that. It's on
Yeah.
on Amazon Prime. So,
Okay.
but carrying on from that, when you're comparing his story and yours, I think you're more than deserving of a Hollywood film. What would be your thoughts on something like that?
A lot of people have said that to me and like said they're waiting for the film. So, I'd be happy. It depends who just gets to play me. You better be good looking.
See, that was my next question. Who are you thinking?
I don't have a clue, to be honest. That's the thing. Is there many 5'5" actors going about?
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he's a bit old.
But you'd be all for it then.
Yeah. Like I said, as long as my story can help others, and if it takes a movie to do that, and like raise awareness of cystic fibrosis and like tough times and making people better, I'd be for that.
Awesome. I'd love to watch it. I'd love to watch it. Any ideas of a title?
Say again.
Any ideas of a title, movie title,
Well,
film?
ever since I started my pro career, my hashtag on Twitter was "fighting to breathe."
Wow.
So, I'd maybe like that to be the title.
Man, I'm gonna see what I can do here. I've got a bit of a background in filming, but it's more local. But I'm gonna have to try reaching out to a few people.
Yeah.
And we'll see what we can do. Because that'd just be amazing. The title even works perfectly. And yeah, I think that follows us over to the last question, which is, what are your plans for the future and your ambitions?
To get better every day.
Yeah.
In everything, not just MMA. To be healthy as long as possible. To inspire people as much as possible. And just to keep growing and living life to the best I can, and spending time with people who mean a lot to me, and also kicking ass and taking my career as far as possible as well.
Are there potential title bouts? Is that a possibility, or
hopefully that way the March 29th one was meant to be one. So we just have to wait for all this to blow over. Obviously there's more important issues in the world at the moment. So wait for this to all blow over and then just get back and getting something arranged, which is next on my list.
Brilliant. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you.
Thanks for having me on.
And it's been an absolute pleasure hearing your story. I'm sure people that listen to this will feel the exact same.
Thank you.
And I just want to say good luck for the future.
Thanks, Ray.